Natotela yawe pakunkakula Natotela yawe pakundubula Natotela yawe pakumpokolola Natotela pakumfunya muli unkole
Members of the press, leaders of the movement for multi-party democracy at all levels, national, provincial, district, and constituency leaders. We are on a mission of inspecting our structures in Eastern Province, but while here, some developments have taken place in the country that have prompted me to respond in this manner instead of answering individual requests from members of the press. I hope this would suffice as an official response on the matters that are happening in Lusaka. I want to start with one of the most trending stories, which involves the allegation that has been made against His Excellency the President, Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, by a leader of a rebel group that is appearing before court in Rwanda. I'm going to address this issue, first of all, as a diplomat and also as somebody who has served in government, in view of how we should proceed in responding to this matter. First of all, when anything happens with international relations, color, or diplomatic nature, Zambians should always be called to rally together for the nation. Any problem, whether it is the president accused of injuring another country or another president, Zambians must understand that the implications go beyond the individual president to the rest of the country, to the extent that in this case, if at all there was anything there and Rwanda decided to react to this, it is not only the president who would suffer as a result, but the whole country would have to suffer repercussions of that reaction. It is therefore my considered view, not only as leader of the movement for multi-party democracy, but as a diplomat, to appeal first of all to the president and the Patriotic Front to consider these allegations extremely serious. Obviously, they come from a person who is standing in court to find a way in which he could get himself off the hook. Having said that, those words, if they were spoken, as we are reading in the media, it means that our government must take very, very serious action. Some of it would involve the president himself calling his colleague in Rwanda and telling him that we are not responsible and involved in this matter, but we are going to wait for what we call a diplomatic note of complaint from Rwanda, if there will be any. If there's no complaint from Rwanda, then at the bilateral level, then there's no issue to be discussed. But if there's going to be a note of complaint, a diplomatic note between Rwanda and Zambia, at that point, Zambia must make a very informed, substantive response that clears both the president and the sovereignty of our country. So what have I said? I think the Patriotic Front should not consider this as a small thing, because we don't know how our colleagues in Rwanda are handling it. So my advice is that the government must do whatever is in its power, even with these rumors going around, to assure our colleagues in Rwanda that we honor, respect healthy bilateral relations between our two countries, and will continue to fight to ensure that Rwanda and Zambia continue to remain as good neighbors. That's number one. Number two, I would like to speak to all of us in the opposition or civil society. When we have a problem like this, which in this case affects the president, sometimes we have the temptation of using it at the local level to do politics. Unfortunately, this is a major development that, if mishandled by all of us, we might be paying for this particular allegation for many years to come as a country. So I would ask for caution on our part that we stand solidly with the country as opposition leaders. We stand solidly at this time with the president, because there is not enough or sufficient information on the table to confirm that the president actually did that. Until that is done, it's the responsibility of all of us, both in government and outside government, to stand solidly for the dignity of this country. And if anything is found out that the president was involved or whatever, that would only come after there's evidence on the table. As we speak now, there's insufficient evidence for us to demonize the president or to call him what he may not be until this thing is known. So I call on all members of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy to remain cautious, to remain responsible, to remain quiet until the investigative wings or more information trickles down to us. And that is our position, that we will be responsible as an opposition party to ensure that we don't use this sensitive diplomatic matter to further our own political game. And I hope that our membership across the country can take this as the final position. However, at the local level, I would like to mention that while this issue is raging at that level, the President and the Patriotic Front must ensure that their hands are clean at the local level. If and when this matter goes for arbitration, if it has to, if it doesn't end now, they are going to look at the record of the President as to whether there is any history of him doing anything like that, and of supporting a rebel group and all that. So they'll investigate everything. It is at this point that I would like to say the following, that I think the president needs to distance himself from anything that looks illegal, because it might be used against him in the ongoing allegation. First of all, we are aware that in 2016, President Lungu went ahead and supported an illegal group in our party and took them to allow them to have the convention in Kabwe and created an illegal group outside the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy with his full knowledge. With his full knowledge, because after that convention, the president rewarded a number of those people, with one of them with a ministerial position, and the others were rewarded in several ways. So we think that that creation of a rebel group within our political organization is not a good thing at all. Obviously, we can think that maybe he didn't know about it, but we are aware that moving forward, the people who were involved in this were rewarded. We can forgive that. But when we go to 2019, November 5th, when the High Court, after the case had gone through all the courts ruled and said that that convention, which took place in 2016, was illegal, which we had always insisted. It produced an illegal group within MMD that for 3 years devastated the many opportunities, or squandered many opportunities that MMD was supposed to enjoy. In November, the court ruled that it was illegal, and Nevers Mumba and his leadership are the legitimate leaders of the party. Having said that, one would have hoped that the president and his team were going to respect the outcome of the court. Over a month ago, there is information in the media that the president in Lungu made a statement that he does not recognize me or recognize the MMD that won the case in the court. meaning that he recognizes those who lost the case. That again becomes an illegality of promoting an illegal group to continue to destabilize the work of the movement for multi-party democracy. And that is a very unfortunate trend in his back pocket. And I'm trying to say to him, he must make sure that he makes his position very clear as to whether legalities of the courts mean anything to him or they don't mean anything to him. Whether he's bothered by the group that has been formed outside the constitutional provisions of our party, which he continues to recognize. I think that this is not good in view of what's happening now in the country. So that statement of saying that he does not recognize this MMD which won the court case in court creates another problem, further illegalities, because it emboldens those who lost the election and those who are rebels in MMD to do probably what we are hearing they are doing, going to set up another secretariat, trying to continue to masquerade as Movement for Multi-Party Democracy against the judgment of the courts of this nation. And the gentleman responsible for this is a duly nominated member of parliament by this president. And it is not for us to stop his illegalities, this member of parliament's illegalities. The silence of the president in this matter raises more questions in view of the major discussion that we are talking about right now. So I would advise, as a pastor, but also as a leader of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, that the president must distance himself from these illegalities, because it is going to create a picture that he supported a rebel group within Zambia, an illegal group within Zambia. Could it be possible that the same spirit could be transferred somewhere else? And we don't want that to be the case. So it remains for the president to distance himself from the activities of those that he's working with, that have continued to create that illegality within our institution. It may look like a small thing. It's in a political party, but it's the same spirit here that can be translated there. And we hope that the president is going to take note of this statement. Again, we have just learned that some PF leaders, youth leaders, went and robbed a police station and got away with it. And these are Patriotic Front people. Those kind of illegalities, we expect the president to come out with a very strong message to say he is not going to be part of any illegalities to that extent. I think these are just matters in which the president needs to, to continue to visibly and publicly distance himself from activities that have made him look like he would condone illegalities. I think that right now, his biggest challenge is one of the nominated members of parliament that continues to do these activities precisely in his name, because he is his appointment. As far as we are concerned, MMD doesn't bother us. We have been attacked from the beginning. We have won every battle. We shall be attacked again, and we shall win those battles as well. We are not moved by the challenges that come to us as a political party. We shall win because justice is on our side. God is on our side, and we are on the side of the rule of law. And that is why we continue to win, because we are always trying to be on the side of the right, of the right side of history. So those are my comments. In short, I'm saying Zambians should not be in a hurry to condemn the president for what's been allegedly said against him concerning the rebel group in Rwanda, because we do not have sufficient information on the table to accuse the president or to call him names at this time. As Zambians, we should defend ourselves by ensuring that we stand solidly together, opposition, ruling party, civil society, and stand for the integrity of this country until we have more information that could change our position. Secondly, I have advised the president to distance himself from these illegalities in which he has been involved in the creation of a parallel MMD that was ended in November on the 5th by a judgment of the court, and yet the president again made a statement that he doesn't recognize that outcome of the court by reference. That's what it means. And we would like for him to make himself clear on this point, because if he doesn't, if and when arbitration comes for the current issue in Rwanda, the investigators might have to look at the history of the president in terms of his ability or capability to do what he's being accused of. And this case of a rebel group within MMD created might work at that time against the president. So we would ask the president to distance himself from this issue that I've raised. And finally, allow me to make a comment on the status of the COVID-19 in our country. The Movement for Multi-Party Democracy made a statement at the beginning of this problem. And we made it very, very clear that we need to do whatever is humanly possible to protect the Zambian people. The best way to do this, in our view, was a lockdown in certain sectors and certain cities so that the virus does not spread. In that meeting, I also said in March that scientific research shows that the peak period for the virus was going to be July, August, and September. And the information we are receiving from Levy Hospital, from UTH, suggests to us that the peak is here with us. As I speak, there are more than 40 patients in Lusaka gasping for life on oxygen. And that's not a good sign. We are seeing increased number of deaths brought in dead from COVID. And I would like for government to make a statement and warn the Zambian people that wearing masks is supposed to be almost mandatory at this time during the peak period, because people are no longer just getting infected now, they have started to die now. They are starting to get hooked up on oxygen now. And it is important that this government does whatever is necessary to protect the Zambian people. May I appeal to the business community in our country to do whatever we can to support the efforts of fighting this pandemic. I've gone everywhere. I'm in Eastern Province now. Our people are not wearing masks. Our people are going around doing business as usual. And I think that government must step in to ensure that the Zambian people are protected. By the way, I've only taken off this mask because I'm speaking, but I'm going to put it right back on. And I just want business people to continue to support the efforts by contributing resources. We need more testing kits, and we hope that we can get more testing done in the country. And then asking government now, if you need to shut down certain areas that you've opened up as government, feel free to do that if it is all in the way of saving lives. But we are deeply concerned as MMD that it doesn't look good at all. It really doesn't look good. And finally, as a result of this pandemic, we would like to continue to advise government to help the poorest of the poor, who are going to be more impacted by what has been happening under COVID-19. Families have no resources, no money in their homes and in their pockets. We are counting on government to do what other governments in the region have done to ease the burden of the breadwinners in the homes. They are still paying rentals like they used to pay before. They are still paying for water at the same levels. They are still paying for electricity at the same levels. The fuel prices are still at the same level. Although the economy has shrunk, and there is absolutely no involvement of government to help those poor amongst us. We ask government to find ways in which they could make lives of Zambians a little easier during this very difficult time of COVID-19. With these few words, I would like to pray that God protects this country and that we do not have to succumb to this virus that has terrorized the entire world. I ask believers, Christians and churches to continue to pray for the safety of our country and that God may protect this land against this virus. I thank you, and may God bless our republic.
Natotela yawe pakunkakula natotela yawe pakundubula natotela yawe pakumpokolola natotela pakumfunya muli